Hello everyone and welcome to another week of indie game development, and this week I'm just going to be adding some final features into the creative mode of Equilinox before it gets released next week on Friday. And the basics of creative mode are now completely finished, but over the last couple of weeks I've had some really good suggestions of extra things that I could add, so I'm just going to be working on implementing some of those new features this week. So I've just been planning out some of the new features that I'm going to be adding this week. And first up, I want to make it possible for the player to choose or to control the day-night cycle so that they can choose whether it's day or night. So I'm going to add these controls at the bottom of the screen here, and that's going to allow you to make the day-night cycle go forwards or backwards or pause it. And the second thing I want to add is in the color selection UI for when you're choosing the color of an entity. I want to add a list of recently used colors on the right here, so that if for some reason you want your sheep to match the colour of your trees, you can very easily choose the exact same colour from the list instead of having to try and select the same colour on the colour wheel. First up, just starting off very simple and displaying the panel where these new controls are going to be shown. So you can see that the panel slides in and out of the screen along with the rest of the UI. And I've also made sure that the panel only shows up in creative mode, so if I load up another world that's in normal mode, you can see that the panel isn't shown here because those controls aren't going to be available in normal mode. So next up, I need to add some buttons to this panel. The UI for this panel is now finished. You can see I've got the three icons, the three buttons here, and they're all working in the sense that they change colour when they should, and the middle button you can toggle on and off and you can see that the icon changes when you do that, but I still need to actually connect them up with the day-night cycle so that they can control it. So this new feature is now done, and you can see me manipulating the day-night cycle here using the arrow buttons, so I can change the time of day to whatever I want it to be, and I can also use the middle button here to pause the day-night cycle. So that might be useful if you wanted to take some screenshots at sunrise. You could get the sun into the right position using the arrow buttons, and you can then pause the day-night cycle to stop the sun from moving and then take as many screenshots as you want. Just been tidying up a few loose ends for the rest of the afternoon. So for example, I added a material component to the deers so that you can now change their colour, which was something that you couldn't do before. I also did the same thing for the beavers here, so you can now change their colour as well. And I also did a little bit more work on the dolphins. I had to fix a few more bugs with their movement, and I also gave them a naming component so that you can now change the name of a dolphin if you want to. And I also tidied up some of their AI code. Wednesday morning, and today I'm going to be working on the recently used colours that I talked about yesterday, and you can see I've started to work on displaying them in the colour selection panel here. So in the code at the moment it's very simple. The recent colours UI just takes in an array of colours and it displays them in a column, and you can see that here. And at the moment these are just some arbitrary colours that I've hard-coded, and clicking on them doesn't do anything yet, but that's what I'm going to be working on next. It is 11:30 now, and I've been making some more progress on the recently used colour UI. So I'm still just displaying some arbitrary colours here, but you can see that when you click on one of them, it now automatically selects that colour in the colour wheel, and this makes it very easy for me to set the colour of this tree to any of the colours in this list. So I've pretty much got this whole system with the recently used colours working now. So for example, if I set this bush to a purple colour, you'll notice that the colour now gets added to the list of the recently used colours, and if I do the same and set this plant to yellow and set this tree over here to a light blue, you can see that both of these colours also get added to this list here. So now for example, if I wanted to set this boar to have the exact same colour as the tree, I can simply select that blue colour again from the list, and that allows me to have matching boars and trees, which is lovely. And of course, if I want more of the boars, I can just duplicate them, and same with the tree. So that's all lovely. There's a few more things I have to do with this system this afternoon, but I wanted to bake some bread rolls today, so I'm going to do that now. Then I'll have some lunch, and then I'll get back to work on this afternoon. Nothing particularly exciting to show you this afternoon. I just did a bit more work on the recently used colours and made sure that they get saved when you save your creative world. So if I go ahead and load up this creative save here and then go into a colour selection panel, you can see that the list of recently used colours has been correctly remembered from the last time that I was playing on this world. But apart from that, I was also considering adding pandas into the game soon. So this afternoon I was tidying up their model a bit. I actually made these models a long time ago, but never ended up adding the pandas into the game. But they'll get added soon. Probably not in the next update, because I won't have time to implement all of their behaviours before then, but I'll add them in the update after that. Thursday morning now, and in the last Devlog video you might remember how I talked about creative mode and how I wasn't sure whether all of the species in the game should be available in creative mode, or whether you should only have access to species that you've previously unlocked in normal mode. And I put a poll in that video so that people could vote on which they prefer, and the results clearly supported only having access to species that you've previously unlocked. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. But it does now mean that I need to implement some sort of system to keep track of all the species that you've ever unlocked in normal mode. So that's what I'm going to be implementing today. So the way that I went about doing this is that in the code I've got a list of species, which is the list of all the species you've ever unlocked. And then in the game, whenever you save one of your normal mode worlds, it copies across all of the species that you've got unlocked in that world into the list, unless they're already in that list. And this happens every time you save any of your normal worlds. And then when you close the game, that list of species gets saved to a file, and when you launch Equilinox, obviously the list gets loaded back up from that file, and then of course whenever you go into a creative world, it simply unlocks all of the species in that list. So this does a good job of keeping track of all the species you've unlocked and keeping that list updated. I've still got a bit more work to do on this afternoon, but it's really nice weather at the moment for the first time this week, so I want to make the most of it and go for a bike ride down to the beach. This afternoon I just had to prepare for the fact that when people play the new update for the first time next week, they're not going to have that file containing a list of all the species they've unlocked. So just for that first time that they play the update, I've written some code that looks through all of their previous save files and extracts a list of all of the species that they've ever unlocked. So I'm finished for the day, and I've got some friends coming around in a bit, so time to do some cooking. It is Friday morning, and today, as always, I'm just going to be doing the editing for this video, so that's pretty much going to be it for this week. Next week on Friday is the big update. That's when creative mode is going to be released along with the dolphins. But for this week, that is going to be it. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.